Pamela. I'm excited for you guys to hear from Claire. I wanted to share one more bit of news that adds to what Pamela shared. There was a new report out last week from the International Panel on the Information Environment. They reviewed 300 studies and showed that rampant climate misinformation is turning the climate crisis into a catastrophe, and that climate action is being blocked by false and misleading information, which is amplified by online bots and trolls. One of the co-leaders of the study said, "We have about 5 years to cut emissions in half and until 2050 to go carbon neutral. Without the right information, we're not going to get there." Another report author suggested that states should criminalize media and advertising firms for amplifying disinformation and misinformation by fossil fuel companies. So Claire, you are on the front lines of this battle against misinformation. Tell us about what's going on here and, specifically with climate misinformation and why it should be a concern to all of us and to brands.
Hi, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here. Yeah, we're in trouble. I hate to say it. If I said, especially to this audience, but if I said climate change is not real, it's possible I could get pulled off the stage. It's possible that you all would start frowning. It's possible that I would feel a sense of sort of social discord, and that I would feel like maybe that wasn't the appropriate thing to say because there is consensus about climate change being real. But on the internet, I could be making millions of dollars. In fact, people are making millions of dollars off of climate change disinformation and other many what we call adversarial narratives. Global Disinformation Index calls it adversarial narratives. These things that are meant to divide us. Now, politicians, we know, can use adversarial narratives to get ahead in whatever political race they're doing. But what we have seen with the internet is that around every political narrative, there's also a donut of grifters who are making money off of those same narratives. And that is what is new. So today we're going to talk about the economy of disinformation, the economy of information, and how we can start to fix all the things that are wrong.
Well, let's explain sort of what's happening for brands, right? When they put an advertising message out there into the universe, a lot of people don't know how the sausage is made behind that. But explain, the supply chain that goes from a brand to a consumer.
So most advertisers don't put ads themselves on the internet. This economy is run by a number of middlemen. So let me just pause for 1 second. This economy is very powerful, okay? This is the most content on the internet is run with ads, is monetized with ads, to the tune of about $1 trillion a year. And it's not just dealing in ads, it's also dealing with money, it's not just dealing with money, it's also dealing with ads. Ads that give credence to lies. When you go to a website, you see your bank there, it looks like it might be a legitimate news site. And, of course, data. So what we have built is this system for marketing, which is also this incredible weapon for propaganda. How do we get here? Well, business used to be personal. Advertisers, even ones that we don't necessarily agree with, used to call up the news and say, well, I'd like to be on A1. And the sales team at the newspaper would say, all right, it'll be this much. And there would be a negotiation for how long you could be there. And then the brand, when it was time to hit the newsstands, they would be able to pick up the physical newspaper and see that their ad was, in fact, on A1 or B3 or wherever they wanted to be. I was out for dinner with a girlfriend the other day, and she paid. So instead of giving her cash, I sent her a Venmo, right? We've been intermediated by the tech companies. And in that exact same way, this system has also been intermediated. So now when a brand wants to advertise on a newspaper, there's a tech system in the middle. And when we want to go and buy the newspaper or read the news, which is more common, we're often on our mobile phones, and we're often dealing with algorithmic feeds. Okay, so we've been intermediated. I'm going to focus on the part of this system that is about the brands trying to get to the websites. I'm focusing on this because there are 3 parties of value in this economy. The reader, of course, you could call them a consumer if you're thinking from a brand perspective, or a citizen, which is a word I prefer. And then there's the publisher, because they present news that is important, and also the advertiser. And out of all three of those, we have to defend all three against this intermediation. Okay? The user, of course, we need privacy laws. We shouldn't be as surveilled as we are. It's dangerous. The publisher, of course, because the news is important, we have to be defending local news. But from a systems perspective, we have chosen at Check My Ads to focus on the advertiser and advocate for the advertiser as a buyer, because we believe that is the most powerful, easiest, low-hanging fruit to fix the internet today.
Why don't we talk about an example of this, in practice, right? Does anybody remember Breitbart? Does anybody hear about Breitbart ever anymore? Okay, couple, but like Breitbart used to be huge. Okay, explain what happened to Breitbart.
I mean, you all remember 2016. In 2016, Breitbart.com, which was run by Steve Bannon, had more Facebook traffic than CNN.com or FoxNews.com. Now, I'm talking about the .coms, okay, these websites that trafficked in all these adversarial narratives. They had stories about Hillary Clinton. They had stories about, they had a whole section called Black on Black Crime. Like, these people were racist. They were bigoted, and everybody knew it. My business partner, her name is Nandini Jami. 2 weeks after the election, she went to Breitbart.com, and she was just like, what is this thing that everybody's talking about? The thing that folks have said won Donald Trump the election. And she's a marketer like me. We're digital marketers. And so she knew that she didn't really know where her ads go. And she saw an ad for Old Navy on Breitbart. And she knew that Old Navy did not have those brand values. They did not agree with what Breitbart was doing, and that they would probably, as marketers, not want to be associated with that kind of vibe. Well, she contacted Old Navy, and their response was, "Oh my God, we had no idea. Thank you for letting us know." And then she and a lot of other people got together. Two people started this social media campaign called Sleeping Giants, and together they contacted 4,000 advertisers, and 4,000 advertisers said, "Oh my God, thank you. We've added Breitbart to our block list." And then they contacted their agencies. So these are the advertisers. I feel like, do you remember in A Wizard of Oz when Toto bites the curtain and pulls it aside? This is the machine behind the ad tech system that runs our digital economy. Okay, so when you're a brand, you work with an agency, and then that agency works with an ad exchange, and that ad exchange, here called a demand-side provider, but then the ad exchange has a real-time bidding, kind of automated negotiation process, and then it works with more what we call small ad exchanges, and then it goes to the website. So for an advertiser to advertise on websites, it takes 4 to 7 hops along the way. Well, the brands didn't want to be on Breitbart, so they contacted their agencies, and they said, "How could you let this happen?" And the agencies went to the demand-side providers and said, "Well, why are you selling Breitbart in the first place? It's brand unsafe. We don't want to be there. We don't think you should even sell it." Well, 31 of Breitbart's 35 ad exchanges dropped them. This is a big deal. According to Steve Bannon, Breitbart was going to make $8 million in 2017, and they were going to take that money and they were going to expand to Germany and to France to do to their elections what they had done to America's. Well, thanks to this campaign, Breitbart lost 90% of that revenue. They did not do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the power also of advertising. I think, we've had a conversation here about being victim to technology and to the, disintermediated ad marketplace that has been created. But brands can actually be agents, and we as individuals can be agents of positive change, like you can see in that instance. So what are some, solutions for us as individuals, not to get, this has obviously been a pretty heavy conversation, and it's only going to increase, right, with AI and with all of the information and the ecosystems that we operate in. So what do you see as the solution here?
Yeah, what do we do? I mean, that was back in 2017. The problem should have been fixed.
Right.
Because It's not like we're forcing advertisers to block Breitbart. They didn't want to be there in the first place. And we know that because Breitbart didn't exist back in the 80s or 90s when things were manual. We need to get back to a time when advertisers have transparency. Okay, in order to get to the next stage, I have to tell a story. I was in Florida visiting my aunt and my grandmother, and my Uncle Ron was there. And my Uncle Ron sells cars, and he sells really nice cars. They're like $90,000. He refurbishes them and paints them. And one day, he really loves Trump. He really loves Tucker Carlson. He doesn't love my work. And I was trying to make friends. I was like, how do you know how to do business so well? You're so good. And he kind of joked, and he was like, oh, I'm a car salesman. I got a license to lie. Which is not true. It used to be true. You think of the slick back sort of trope of the car salesman in the 60s. You couldn't trust them. You couldn't trust if they would sell you a lemon. Right? Well, that's not true anymore. We buy cars with confidence. So I said, what changed? He said, what are you talking about? We got the lemon law. I said, what's the lemon law? Well, if you buy a car and it doesn't work, you get your money back. And they invented this. It's a very specific type of refund law specific to the car industry. It's regulated at the state level. And I said, well, we don't have that in ad tech. He said, what else? What makes you a dealer? He said, what are you talking about? The DMV does. I said, what does that mean? He goes, every 2 years, I go down to the DMV, I take a test in financial compliance. These cars, they're $90,000. But these campaigns are $90 million. We don't have that. There's no financial compliance laws. What else? He goes, I take their social security number. I said, what's that? He goes, it's basic KYC. Know your customer laws. He said, I put the social security number of any buyer into my software. It immediately gets run through Homeland Security. And if it's flagged orange or red, I am given a script at the DMV. I step outside and I call the police because that person is deemed a threat to national security. I said, why is that? Why do we have to have that? He said, because this industry used to be rife with organized crime. Well, according to the World Federation of Advertisers, this industry is the second largest industry in the world for organized crime because of the level of money laundering and fraud. So I would propose we got to treat these dealers like America has regulated Uncle Ron. Okay, now all these arrows that you see here, they're all pointing to the middle. They used to all be pointing to the right because I was tracking the ads. But that was not correct. I needed to be tracking something different. And it was a nuance that was very subtle, but it's changed the way I think about the internet entirely. The thing that is being trafficked, the thing that is being bought, is ad space. So that's why we're in a financial negotiation. It's a financial marketplace, and it looks a lot like the financial marketplace before the subprime mortgage crisis. Bundling and rebundling of value. I believe that we need due diligence and transparent financial reporting. We need best interest of duty laws, which, if you remember, was the thing that we regulated Enron with. We need a lot less monopoly power. So at Check My Ads, we cover the Google Ads trial, DOJ v. Google Ads. It's on our website. What we're fighting for here is not to silence anyone. We're looking to make sure that advertisers can choose where their own ads go. It's just a free market. We're arguing for informed choice. Feel free to take a photo of this slide. I won't go into it super in depth, but this is exactly what I just said. We need to stop the flow of billions, and I mean billions with a B, to harmful content, things that advertisers would never be on in the first place. We need to stop self-dealing and fraud, basic lying and trickery, because if we can do that, we will make this economy reflective of our community values in a way that for the past 20 years, it has grown to not be.
And there's some work you're doing on the local level as well to start sort of making some of these changes.
Yes, we have a bill. It's called BOB, the Better Online Business Act. We have a bill in the Vermont state floor currently by Miranda Priestley. And she's so great. And we're getting exactly these transparency laws. So at the state level, if you know anyone in your state who would be interested in this kind of transparency law, we're protecting local advertisers from being defrauded, from having their campaigns stolen along the way, or from having their ads end up places where they don't want to be. If you'd like to learn more about this work, please, our newsletter is free. It's very popular. And it's because we talk about these very tangible things, and we're always moving. This team every week has a new thing going. We are always pushing and building more transparency in this industry because we believe it will affect our fight in climate. It will affect our fight for human rights. It will affect our access to really accurate local news. It will affect all the work that we are doing. If you think of any problem, it is made so much worse by the way the internet is today. We can fix it.
Well, and we think about, the importance of policy, right? And the importance of individual action and all of that. But we need to remember that brands have a tremendous amount of power when they want to do the right thing. And so we need to help them with the technology to support that. And the work you're doing is so important. And I love that your personal story of just how you saw the problem and thought, how could this be happening? Do people understand? And wanted to go fix it. So thank you for the work you're doing. And I hope everybody follows Check My Ads and stays in touch with what Claire is doing to fight misinformation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.